Imagine a billionaire tech visionary moments away from losing everything: his fortune, his reputation, and his future. When the courtroom doors burst open and a 12-year-old girl steps forward, clutching a worn satchel and claiming she holds the truth that could change it all. What happens next will expose a web of lies, betrayal, and a plot more dangerous than anyone imagined. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where you are watching from. If this story moved you, we love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and tell us what you think. Now, let's jump into the story. The air in the courtroom felt heavy, as if every breath carried the weight of judgment. Lucas Harper sat at the defendant's table, shoulders tense, his eyes fixed on the polished wood before him. Once celebrated as a pioneer in the world of technology, he now faced public disgrace. The judge's voice echoed through the room, delivering the devastating sentence. Lucas Harper was ordered to pay $975 million to 5 well-known influencers. The accusations were severe: claims of harassment, discrimination, and creating a toxic environment at his billion-dollar company, Horizon Arc. Clara Henson, the district prosecutor, stood with confidence. Her words cut through the silence like a knife. She told the press and the crowd that this verdict sent a clear message: no one, regardless of wealth or power, could escape the consequences of their actions. Behind her, the 5 plaintiffs, Serena Vale, Mila Rogers, Chloe Hamilton, Ivy Perez, and Jade Lee, stood close together. Their expressions were a blend of triumph and relief, the image of victory for the cameras. Lucas's attorney, Paul Rennick, placed a steady hand on his client's shoulder and whispered, "We'll appeal. This isn't over." But Lucas hardly heard him. His mind was somewhere else, drowning in thoughts of lost trust, lost reputation, and the crushing blow to everything he had built. In the back of the room sat Laura, his ex-wife. They had been apart for years, but Lucas had always held a quiet hope of regaining her respect. Today, her expression was unreadable, a mixture of disappointment and something he couldn't name. The judge prepared to end the proceedings, his gavel poised above the desk. Then the unexpected happened. The heavy courtroom doors swung open with a loud creak. A voice, high and clear, rang out, "They're lying." Every head turned toward the entrance. Standing there was a small figure, Ella Harper, Lucas' 12-year-old daughter. Her hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail, and in her arms she clutched a worn leather satchel. Despite her size, her stance radiated determination. "Young lady, this is a court of law," the judge began, his tone firm but not unkind. Ella stepped forward, her sneakers squeaking against the marble floor. "My name is Ella Harper, and I have proof that my dad didn't do what they said." Murmurs swept through the room. The influencers exchanged uneasy glances. The prosecutor's voice rose in protest. "Your Honor, this is highly inappropriate. The child should be removed." Laura rose quickly from her seat. "Ella, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at school." But Ella didn't slow her pace. She reached her father's side, her eyes locking with his. "I found evidence, Dad. I know you didn't do what they're saying." Lucas looked at her, a flicker of hope lighting his tired features for the first time in months. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. After the noise died down, he leaned forward. "Young lady, approach the bench." Ella walked up with steady steps, the satchel still in her grip. Her voice softened, but her words were clear. "Everything you've been told is wrong. The truth is in here." The tension in the courtroom thickened. No one moved. No one spoke. The 5 plaintiffs shifted uncomfortably, while reporters leaned forward, ready for the next development. As the scene hung in suspense, the voiceover could almost whisper to the audience. How could a 12-year-old find what an entire legal defense team could not? What was in that bag? And how had this young girl gathered the courage to step into a room where fortunes, reputations, and futures were decided? The answer would not come today, at least not fully. But the moment would be remembered, the day the story everyone thought they knew began to unravel, and the smallest voice in the room dared to speak the loudest. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, capturing the instant Ella's arrival shifted the narrative. Inside, the judge ordered a brief recess, and Lucas sat quietly, one thought echoing in his mind. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a way to prove the truth. This was no longer just a fight for his career. It was a battle for his name, his family, and the belief that truth, no matter how deeply buried, could rise again. And it had begun with the courage of a child who refused to be silent. The memory of that tense courtroom moment stayed in Lucas Harper's mind long after the doors closed. Yet the truth behind the accusations had started taking shape months earlier, in quiet corners far from public view. Serena Vale sat in a private lounge at an upscale hotel. Her expression sharp, her voice low but commanding. Across the table were Mila Rogers, Chloe Hamilton, Ivy Perez, and Jade Lee. They leaned in, listening carefully. The dim light flickered across their faces, reflecting the seriousness of the conversation. Serena had once been the leading face of Horizon Arc's marketing campaigns, featured on billboards from New York to Tokyo. When Lucas decided to refresh the brand's image and bring in new talent, she had been replaced. To her, it wasn't just a business decision, it was a personal insult. "This is how we win," Serena said, her tone cold and calculated. "We make him the villain. Once the public believes the story, it won't matter if he fights back. No company survives this kind of scandal." Mila shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Are we sure about this? He never treated me badly. Professional, yes. Strict, maybe. But nothing like what we'd be claiming." Serena's eyes narrowed. "Don't lose focus. Companies settle these things quickly to avoid damage. And even if he doesn't, the press will destroy him before the trial ends. You'll all get your share, and you'll never have to worry about work again." Ivy Perez traced her fingers over a silver necklace resting on her collarbone. The piece caught the light briefly, a detail that would later capture the attention of someone who mattered. Unbeknown to them, a waitress had been lingering nearby, refilling glasses and clearing plates. She was Marie Fletcher, Lucas's trusted assistant, who had come to the lounge to collect a takeout order. The moment she recognized the group, she slowed her pace, ears tuned to every word. Their conversation confirmed her growing suspicion. The accusations were not only false, they were part of a deliberate plan. Marie's hands trembled as she discreetly pulled out her phone, recording snippets of their discussion. She knew the evidence might not be enough to stand in court, but it was proof that something dark was unfolding. The next morning, Marie went straight to Lucas's office, recounting everything she had heard. He listened, but his response was cautious. "Marie, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but recording people without consent could get us into trouble. We'll handle this the right way, through legal channels." Reluctantly, Marie deleted the recordings, but the doubt in her heart remained. As the weeks passed, the accusations gained traction. Headlines painted Lucas as a ruthless figure who abused his position. Public opinion turned quickly, or investors pulled out, contracts were canceled, and the value of Horizon Arc began to fall. At home, the tension weighed on Ella. Weekends with her father had always been a mix of coding projects, science experiments, and walks along the pier. But now, she saw the change in him. Lucas was quieter, distracted, and often lost in thought. One Saturday afternoon, while working together in his home lab, Ella finally asked, "Dad, why don't you just tell everyone they're lying?" Lucas sighed. "It's not that simple, Ella. There are 5 of them. It's their word against mine. The incidents they describe happened in places without cameras. They've made sure there's nothing concrete I can use." Ella frowned. "Isn't there any clue? Anything that doesn't make sense?" Lucas hesitated before speaking again. "Serena was our lead model for years. When her contract ended, she wasn't happy. A month later, the accusations started." Ella stored that information away in her mind. Later that evening, unable to sleep, she opened her laptop and began digging into the backgrounds of the 5 women. She studied their social media accounts, old interviews, and event appearances. One post caught her attention: Ivy Perez at a private event, wearing the same silver necklace Ella had seen in her mother Laura's jewelry box. Her pulse quickened. Why would her mother own something identical to what one of the accusers wore? Could they know each other? The next day, while Laura was at work, Ella carefully opened the jewelry box in her mother's room. There it was, the same necklace, engraved on the back with a short message: "To Laura, with all my gratitude, Ivy." She closed the box quickly, her mind racing. Her mother had never mentioned knowing any of the women. What did this mean? Was Laura somehow connected to the accusations against her father? From that moment, Ella's mission became clear. She started mapping out timelines, linking posts, events, and shared connections. She called it her truth map, a growing network of details that might expose the truth. What she didn't know was that the path she had started down would lead to discoveries far more shocking than she could imagine. Truths that would shake her family and uncover a web of betrayal that reached further than anyone realized. The shadows were closing in, but Ella was already stepping into them. Determined to find the light, the following weeks brought heavier silence into the Harper household. Lucas avoided talking about the case, while Ella grew more determined to piece together the truth. Her truth map had started as a few notes and photographs, but it had now grown into a web of connections, linking the 5 influencers, her mother Laura, and several strange coincidences that could no longer be ignored. One evening, after dinner, Ella waited until Laura stepped into her office to take a call. Quietly, she retrieved the small recording device she had hidden behind a stack of books on her mother's desk. It had been running for 3 days. Guilt weighed on her, but her determination outweighed her hesitation. That night, Ella listened to the recordings alone in her room. The voices were muffled at first, but one conversation made her freeze. Laura's voice was clear. "I don't think I can keep doing this, Ivy. The board is forcing him out. It's going too far." Then came Ivy Perez's voice, calm but firm. "It's too late to stop now. Serena has everything lined up. Once the judgment comes, it's done." Ella listened again, her heart pounding. This was no misunderstanding. Her mother was directly connected to at least one of the accusers. Worse, she was part of the plan. Over the next few days, Ella pushed her search further. While reviewing event footage from the company gala 6 months earlier, she found something strange. One security camera showed Serena Vale slipping into Lucas's private office during the party. The timestamp matched exactly when Lucas had been giving a speech in another room. Her instincts told her this was important. The next weekend, while helping her father in his home lab, Ella decided to search the office herself. She checked drawers, shelves, and behind furniture. Then, near the baseboard, her fingers brushed against something small. She pulled out a black flash drive. Dusty and hidden from view, Lucas looked up from his workbench as she held it out. "Where did you find that?" "Behind the wall panel," Ella said. Curious, they plugged it into his computer. Folders opened, revealing hundreds of image files. Side-by-side comparisons showed the same photos in two forms. One set appeared normal, professional business events, group photos, nothing unusual. The other set showed manipulated versions, subtle but damaging changes to body positions, expressions, and even cloth. "These are the pictures they used in court," Lucas said quietly. "But these are the originals. The metadata proves when they were changed." Ella's mind worked quickly. "If we take this to the judge now, maybe it's not too late." Lucas hesitated. "The verdict's already been read, Ella. It's over." "Not if we show them this," she insisted. On Monday morning, Ella made her move. She pretended to feel sick, convincing Laura to let her stay home from school. Once Laura left for work, Ella grabbed the flash drive, the printouts from her truth map, and her recorder. She called a cab, telling the driver she was meeting her father for a school project. The cab pulled up to the courthouse just as the judge's voice echoed from inside. The verdict was being finalized. Ella's heart raced as she ran up the steps and pushed open the heavy wooden doors. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice carrying across the room. "They're lying!" All eyes turned toward her. Laura's face went pale. Lucas stared in shock. The five influencers exchanged startled glances. The judge frowned, but gestured for silence. "Young lady, approach the bench." Ella walked forward, clutching her satchel. "Your Honor, I have evidence that proves my father is innocent. These photos were altered, and I can show you the originals." The judge called a recess and ordered both attorneys into his private chambers. There, Ella laid out the flash drive, her notes, and the recording of Laura and Ivy's conversation. She explained each piece in calm, methodical detail, just as her father had taught her when working on science projects. The judge examined the photos, comparing the altered versions to the originals. The timestamps and file data told the story clearly. The evidence used against Lucas had been fabricated. "There's also video of Serena entering my father's office alone during the gala," Ella added. "That's when she could have taken the originals." For a long moment, the room was. Then the judge spoke. "I am issuing an immediate stay on the judgment. A full investigation will begin at once." Lucas exhaled, a look of relief and pride breaking through his shock. "You've done something incredible, Ella." But Ella knew the fight was far from over. The people who had set this in motion wouldn't give up easily. Still, as they left the judge's chambers, she felt the first glimmer of hope, proof that truth, once found, could change everything. The days following Ella Harper's bold interruption in court moved like a storm. News of the sudden twist spread quickly, and within a week, a special investigator was assigned to examine her evidence. Experts confirmed the flash drive was authentic. The original images proved the photos used against Lucas had been digitally altered with advanced software. The investigation pointed to one person with both the skill and the motive: Damian Cross, the former chief technology officer of Horizon Arc. Damian had left the company after a bitter disagreement with Lucas. The board had backed Lucas's decision to shut down an invasive data project called Atlas Vision, which Damian had strongly supported. The project aimed to secretly collect personal information from users, something Lucas had refused to allow. When Damian left, he carried a grudge, and now it was clear he had acted on it. In court, the pressure mounted on the five influencers. Jade Lee was the first to break. With her voice shaking, she confessed that Serena Vale had approached each of them with a plan, promising large payouts if they joined her lawsuit. Damien had supplied the altar photos and coached them on their stories. The confession sent shockwaves through the room. Mila Rogers and Chloe Hamilton quickly agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges. Ivy Perez stayed silent at first, but when confronted with recordings of her calls with Laura, she admitted her involvement. Laura Harper sat in the back of the courtroom, her hands clasped tightly. When it was her turn to speak, she told the judge she had been misled by Ivy, who used old resentments from the divorce to manipulate her into siding against Lucas. She admitted her part in the scheme and agreed to testify against Serena and Damien. With the mounting evidence, the judge vacated the judgment against Lucas. Arrest warrants were issued for Damien and Serena, and both were taken into custody. The courtroom, once filled with whispers against Lucas, now echoed with a different kind of attention, one that recognized the truth had been buried and finally uncovered. Weeks later, the mood around Horizon Arc began to change. The company's reputation slowly rebuilt itself, and stock prices started to rise. Lucas returned as CEO, welcomed by the board with unanimous support. New policies were introduced to ensure transparency and protect against similar schemes. At home, life also began to shift. Ella's relationship with her mother remained fragile, but there was an unspoken effort on both sides to repair what had been broken. Laura took a new job at a community health center and stayed out of the public eye. 3 months after the case closed, Horizon Arc hosted its annual charity gala. This year, Lucas had planned something special. The ballroom glowed under soft lights, and the air buzzed with anticipation as Lucas took the stage. After a short introduction, he called Ella to join him. "This year has taught me that courage comes in many forms," Lucas said, resting a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "My company was saved because someone refused to stay silent. Tonight we launch the Ella Harper Initiative for Honest Innovation, a program to ensure technology is used responsibly and ethically." Ella stepped to the microphone. Her voice was steady. "Technology should help people, not hurt them. It should connect us, not divide us. This initiative will make sure companies keep that promise." Applause filled the room. Ella glanced out into the audience and saw Laura smiling faintly. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. After the event, Lucas and Ella walked out into the cool night. A light snow had begun to fall, blanketing the city streets. They stood for a moment, watching the flakes drift under the streetlights. "You changed everything," Lucas said quietly. Ella shook her head. "We did it together." As they walked toward their car, Ella thought about all that had happened. The lies, the fear, the risk of speaking out. None of it had been easy. But in the end, the truth had risen above the noise. It had saved her father, restored what mattered, and opened the door to something new. She knew there would be more challenges ahead. Life was unpredictable, and not every story ended neatly. But tonight was different. Tonight was about new beginnings. And as the snow continued to fall, Ella understood that sometimes the greatest victories weren't about revenge. They were about building something better than what had been lost.